Welcome to the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast with your hosts, Matt High, Richie Kopech, and Joe Capozzi. Welcome to the lair. And welcome back to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. I'm your host, Matt High, joined today by everyone. We got Joe Capozzi and Richie Kopech in the house tonight. How are we all doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you, Joe?
I'm good. I'm taking a break from my strenuous Diablo gameplay to record.
Oh my God. Don't get me started on this.
Yeah, this is where we lose a lot of people during the year for a couple months, and then it'll kind of die out, and then football season's here, so it's a good pre-football activity. But we'll see.
Agree with that.
Right. So we got a fun episode today. We finished rankings, and today's episode we're basically gonna poke holes in each other and explain why the other person's crazy and why we are correct. So we'll try not to leave here crying, but I think we'll be okay. We'll keep it civil.
And promises.
I'm already crying.
We'll see how it goes. But gotta always start with a question at the top. So today, now that we finished most of our rankings, I thought this was a good one. Who's your favorite bounce back player for 2023? Rich, who's your first guy?
I mean, for me, it's I'm gonna go with Cooper Kupp. It's gonna be interesting, I think, to see how he does this season. I mean, 2 years ago we watched him take the Triple Crown and just be an overall slam dunk at the position, completely ruining people's lives that were against him. And it's just, where we are right now with the Rams offense, there's a lot of question marks and things going on. But Stafford seems to be coming back. Obviously, we know he has the connection with Kupp, and we know how good Kupp can be. So with him getting injured last year, I'm just interested to see kind of what type of bounce back we're about to see from Cooper Kupp. And that's why it stands out the most to me.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, Cooper Kupp, last season was awesome. He was so far ahead on a points per game basis, and unfortunately just got injured, and the season was lost, and there was no reason to come back. But I like it. I hope so, because that would be nice. I actually tried to acquire him in our dynasty league, and it was shot down because of that fact that they're expecting a bounce back, and the guy can get more. So kind of sucks, but hey, it's fantasy. What about you, Joe? Who's your bounce back guy?
My bounce back player for this year is Mac Jones. And I know you guys both ranked him low, but I think from going to being benched and Bailey Zappi coming in when he was hurt to this year, I think he's going to show a lot of people that he is an NFL quarterback. I don't think he's going to be a top 5 finish, but I think he's going to do well. I think he's going to be in the pocket, throwing some passes to Juju and his other weapons, and he's going to do way better than he was doing last season. So
Spicy. Yeah, I am not a believer of Mac Jones, as we found out in the last episode. And I don't know if you are, Rich, but based on your face, I'm assuming you are a little bit lower with me on him.
I would definitely say I'm a little lower. I mean, I'm rooting for it. I have some pieces from the Patriots as far as on my teams, so would love to see some better days on the offense over there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Bill O'Brien is there now, calling plays, so chances are it's going to be. I mean, really can't be worse than last year, right? I mean, if we really think about it, it can't be that bad. So
It can be.
Bounce back.
Yeah. I mean, bouncing back from like a foot tall to maybe a foot and a half, it counts. So we'll see.
As someone who just sold all their shares of Mac Jones, I still believe that he's going to do well this year.
We'll have to see.
Fair enough.
It depends on what they got going in training camp, but I'm excited to see, how it looks. Juju's one guy I've been low on for the past couple of years, but he could surprise us. We'll see. So now we're ready to get into this. So tonight we have the honorable Joe Judge here. Judge Joe is going to be working on our rankings. Basically, what's going to happen is we're going to go at each other, me and Rich, give our rebuttal, and then Joe is going to make the final decision on who he sides with and what's more plausible for this season. So, do you have anything you would like to say before we get going?
Me?
Either one of you.
Well, I'm just gonna say my rankings are correct and everyone else is wrong, and that's it. Period.
I'd like to say one thing. Joe, there's a package in the mail for you. It should not influence your opinions whatsoever in this,
Wow.
but there's a pizza on the way. So
You
it's
sent it
got,
via USPS?
yeah,
It's gonna get cold.
it'll be here in like 3 years. Don't worry,
Oh
it won't
boy.
get lost. Never gets
Hey,
lost.
I will. I play no favoritism. I don't care if you're on my fantasy team or not. I mean, as we were just, we'll get into it, but I'm going based off of who I really believe is going to be better.
All right, so Rich, who is the first person you want to poke a hole on before?
Also, just looking at the rankings, starting with quarterbacks. So I have to say that I don't understand why you're so low on Deshaun Watson. Currently, I have him ranked as QB6, while you have him at QB12, which, granted, QB12 is still good. Still a back of the first half, beginning of the second, depending on how many league mates you have, player. But nonetheless, I think that the rust is going to begin to have been shaken off. I think better days are ahead for the Cleveland Browns. And with that, we're going to see some old school Deshaun that we saw in the past, and kind of get more of it, some of that spiciness that we used to see from him.
All right, so this is where my rebuttal is going to come in with Deshaun Watson. I think I have him ranked as a QB1 this season. I do believe he finishes that. It's going to be a lot better than last year, but his weapons are Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones. And then they drafted Cedric Tillman, who has an injury history. Kareem Hunt is gone. It's a different offense that he's used to. I know last year they started to get away from the run a little bit when he came back and just let him throw it, because when you're paying, was it $250 million fully guaranteed to a guy, you're gonna use him as much as possible to get your money's worth. But at the same time, he's a little bit older. He hasn't played in a couple years. Yes, I know he's got a full off season with all these weapons, but you know, even though Amari Cooper finished very high last year, I think he was like the wide receiver 7 or 8. I forget off the top of my head. I know he was up there. I don't believe it's going to be enough. This offense is going to change because they're going to be throwing the ball. So their identity has been run the ball with Nick Chubb. And I think that takes away the total ceiling for Deshaun Watson in the passing game, because Nick Chubb is just great at football. So that's where it is. For me, he's still a quarterback one, but just I would take other guys that have what I'm projecting as higher ceilings than Deshaun Watson. So, what is your verdict on the first case brought tonight, Joe?
I would say I would side with Matt on this one. I do agree with Richie. I do think he's going to be way more dangerous this year, but Richie also has him above Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. Those are two guys I'm 100% of the time taking over Deshaun Watson, because they are very consistent with their output of points, whereas Deshaun showed lots of shakiness last year, still trying to get the rust off. I think his rust will be off this year, but I don't think he's going to be outscoring Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. And I know Richie's a big Joe Burrow believer, so the, the fact that he put Deshaun over Joe Burrow blows my mind. But
All
so
right,
I
all right, all right.
verdict goes to Matt and the plaintiff. But yeah, no, I think Deshaun's up there, but I kind of more agree with where around Matt has him on his rankings.
All right, so now it's time for me to bring my case to you, sir. I disagree wholeheartedly with your decision to not put Justin Herbert as a quarterback one. I have him as the quarterback 8, and you have him as a quarterback 13. So, case 4. Kellen Moore was just added to this offense as OC from Dallas Cowboys. Look at what that offense has done the past few seasons. Tons and tons of points. That's why he kind of left Dallas, because Mike McCarthy doesn't like scoring points, apparently. This team had so many injuries last year that they didn't have their star players all healthy at the same time for longer than a game or two. So, again, projecting full health, they also drafted uh, Quentin Johnston. So they have Keenan Allen, who, despite his age, is still good at football. We saw that last year. His last 5 games, I think his last since he came back from the hamstring injury, I believe he was the wide receiver 5 to finish out the season. So pretty good at football.
That's only because I traded him.
Well, the Chargers thank you for that, because he did well. Oh, excuse me. And I don't see how this offense doesn't take a giant step forward. He's got Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, a touchdown upside, Quentin Johnson, if he could come in and do what some people are projecting him to do, and just fill the gap in between if one of them is injured. Just, a solid player to hit the ground running as a rookie. He's got Gerald Everett, who has a nose for the end zone, heavily utilized. And we can't forget Austin Eckler catches a ton of passes. So with all those pieces, he's got to be a quarterback 1 to me. And I think my ranking of 8 might be a little too low. I'm very bullish on the Chargers this year.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, I guess initially looking at my rankings, I do have some tweaking to do as far as just the overall what I'm looking at as far as my list here. Maybe I am just a little bit off on certain players here, but nonetheless, I mean, I still looking into my rankings as far as when I was going through with the Chargers. It's not like I was any sort of like thinking that this wasn't going to be a high-powered offense. I gave them a decent amount of yards across. I'm pretty sure I've ranked Eckler as my second overall running back. So it's weird to me that I guess he ended up where he did, but I guess at certain times that's what happens. And so just kind of defending my point as to why I have him lower. Well, I mean, looking at the players that are above him, so most of these guys here, I mean, the reason why they are definitely above him is they're more mobile than him. I mean, maybe it's just more of a knock as to where he's just more of a kind of passer. And so with the weapons and all that he has there, I imagine that there should be, targets aplenty, but how many touchdowns they all come down with and all, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's something I just need to look into more. So I definitely should rank him higher. So, I mean, I'm even going to give this up to you, but nonetheless, yeah, I mean, there's still a good handful of these guys that I honestly do, I guess, like more so. So, I mean, I would probably somewhere after my tweaking, he'll probably end up somewhere around like the 10 mark, 9, 10, somewhere around there.
So, Joe, I guess make it official so I can feel good.
Yeah, Justin Herbert's good at football. Confirmed.
Excellent analysis. Some high tea stuff. All right.
Yeah, so I mean, enough with the quarterbacks, man. Enough with them. Let's get on to other types of rankings here.
Before we swap off, the one thing I wanted to bring up, because I'm sure a lot of people, Richie has Trey Lance on his top 32 quarterback list, and Matt has Brock Purdy on his top 32 quarterback list. Both players have a chance to start. Same with Sam Darnold over there. Not that I think Sam Darnold's going to win the starting job. He's had his chance 2 other teams, and look where he is now. But if I had to pick between the two, and I'm as a Purdy holder, I still believe that Trey Lance will start this season. Do I think he'll finish the season? I honestly don't think so. I think he might. If he struggles, he's going to be sat for Purdy. But I think he's going to get the initial start when he's back from injury. And if he can get the job done, he's going to remain there. But if not, then we'll see Purdy coming in to take that job. I do think that Trey Lance initially starts this season. So I agree with Richie on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think my rankings more so are more reflective of him starting at the beginning of the season because Purdy's not ready, and then actually winning the job and kind of going into fruition as to what we expected to see from last season. So that's why, I mean, with the rushing capability that I know he has, I mean, he can be a top 10 quarterback in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I the 49ers, we're not going to know what's going on until week 1. So we can rank all we want now. It's all just speculation. I was looking more at the talk from the team, and that's kind of where I was just leaning towards Brock Purdy. Either way, it's not going to be the best because, you know, Trey Lance coming off a major injury, Brock Purdy coming off major injury, running team, it's going to be different, I think. So either way, but I think that's all you can really say about the 49ers passing room, like who's going to play quarterback. We just won't know, and it's kind of crazy, but I feel like this happens every year to at least one or two teams, and this year it's the Niners. So
I mean, the Niners have a good offense, so I could see them really just having plug and play as far as quarterback, you know. But Trey Lance has that mobility, so that's where I kind of put him as, you know, the top upper echelon. But nonetheless,
gotcha.
there was a couple of. But moving on to kind of on the lower side there, the quarterback I know that I'm, I guess, lower on than you. Tua Tagovailoa. QB 23 for me, QB 14 for Matt. It seems that we are definitely on the lower half of the spectrum as far as the quarterbacks go, with Tua more so than seeing him as at least, you know, top 15. I mean, or you are right on the cusp there. So I mean, for me, it's quite simple. I don't really see him playing out the rest of the season. I think that's kind of where my rankings reflect. There is some shakiness going on, and I think it really is a concern for me. I think the injuries of last season are going to play a little bit into what's going on here. I think it's going to knock him down. I mean, you know, even with him being a lower quarterback, I still have, you know, the weapons around him doing pretty well this season. So one doesn't always, you know, equate to the other. But I don't really see Tua being that much of a grand slam help for your fantasy team. So
My thing with Tua is when he played, he was great, and I know the injury concerns are there. You know, he did have an issue with the concussions. We all saw it was really scary, and there was talk of him stepping away from the game if it was going to be to the point where he couldn't, you know, function. And it got hairy for a bit. But looking at the offense, looking at what they did this offseason, how he's talked about he's ready to go and he's been working with a trainer to learn how to fall correctly, stuff like that. So he's taking care of what he can. That offense is pretty high powered with Tyreek Hill, who proved last year. Doesn't matter who's throwing the football, he's great. Jalen Waddle, awesome talent, came out swinging 2 great seasons in a row. And, you know, the running backs are it's Mike McDaniels comes from the Shanahan tree. So Shanahan and, you know, Sean McVay work with those guys. And I believe he knows how to coach. He's going to put his players in the best position to succeed, and that's where I think Tua comes in. You know, he's going to be running this offense that has a bunch of great weapons, and whenever you have a lot of good weapons, like usually that translates to quarterback points. So instead of like picking which guy you want, you just go through the guy running the offense, and that's what I'm doing here. So I could have him a little bit higher with those injury concerns, but I do believe Tua is an amazing talent at the quarterback position, and he's set up to succeed this season. So
I
that's
mean,
my
the outcomes are there's definitely that you know, all types of outcomes, right? It's just, I guess, in the realm of possibilities as far as, you know, where he's going to fall. So good luck though. I hope nothing but the best for him, you know.
yeah. I mean, he comes back, that'd be awesome. He was it was
Right.
so much fun to watch him play football last year, outside of the concussion games. Those are freaky. But all right, sir. What's the verdict?
Yeah, no, I agree with Matt, honestly. I like Tua. I think he's a great. We saw it last year with the weapons he had. He was killing it with fantasy points. He was slinging the ball, getting those touchdowns to Tyreek and Waddle. Um, I could see Richie's point. If he does get hurt, I could see why he ranked him down there. But I think that was kind of like just a freak year for him, and I'm hoping that he now get takes care of himself a little bit more, and hopefully he just continues to do what he's been doing down there in Miami and in that system. And I do have him a little higher, pretty much kind of right where you have him at. I kind of like him right there, just maybe a little bit higher. I definitely think I'd put him over Kenny Pickett, but otherwise I kind of like him right where you have him.
Nice. Going for the clean sweep tonight, boys. All right. So my next issue with the quarterback position, Daniel Jones, who we've mentioned a few episodes, and I've been going a little bit back and forth, and I understand that, but I am as the QB9, which quarterback one is pretty good, not too shabby. You got him as quarterback 5, and I know you said you got to do some tweaking, but with Daniel Jones, I'm assuming it's based on the rushing baseline, which no one can deny. Rushing quarterbacks are great for fantasy. It's been proven year in, year out, ever since basically Lamar came in, and it's been that new evolution at the position. And yes, that gives a good solid floor, but I just don't know how that passing attack is going to work, and that's kind of where my issues arise with Daniel Jones. So I'm curious to see if it's mainly the rushing baseline that is what has you very very excited for Mr. Danny Dimes. So
100%. 100%. It's the rushing baseline. I mean, I've been saying this since, we've drafted the boy. I mean, once I saw the doe-legged run that everybody refers to, when he was running down the field and he tripped and fell. Ever since that run where they clocked his speed and he was actually, running at speeds equivalent to Tyreek Hill, I fell in love with this guy's running and realized that this is a real rushing quarterback. As far as in my rankings go, I do have him very high. I'm definitely very bullish on him. Maybe it has a little bit to do with I'm a homer as I am a Giants fan. So maybe you can add a little bit of that baked into there. But I definitely think that, I mean, as far as in the league goes, Allen, Hurts, Fields, Jackson, those are the 4 quarterbacks that have more rushing upside than Jones. That's it, in my opinion. Other than that, I mean, there's everybody else in the league. So I guess for how I statted him out, I did kind of give him a high floor as far as the running goes. But I mean, I think with the second year coming in with Dable, the sky's the limit really with Daniel Jones. I do think that he can be actually a really good quarterback and astonish all of us. And I think with the help of someone like Brian Dable behind him, it's possible. So maybe I am a little bit too high on him. I didn't think that at the end of my rankings he would end up that high, but hey, like I said, that boy can run. That boy can run, and rushing quarterbacks are game breakers. So
I like it. I might move him up just a little bit, but I kind of like where I have him. I don't know. I just like some of the other guys better. I think just
get it.
safer, but
My rankings will be adjusted, and he'll probably go down a knock or 2, or maybe even 3. But
yeah.
I'm still keeping him inside top. Definitely a top 10 quarterback for me.
Yeah, I mean these are really early rankings.
Yeah.
It's June, so players are going to get cut, players are going to get traded, and people are going to get injured. So these are going to change a lot. So it's a
For
fun
sure.
exercise to kind of see how we're thinking about it going into the season. But way
Yeah.
before OTAs just started and everything. So it's going to be interesting. But Judge Joe waiting
Um,
on a verdict. We got to get you a gavel. That's what we got to do.
the I'm a Giants fan. I'm not a Daniel Jones fan. I don't think they really did anything in the offseason to help him at all, or to help him win a Super Bowl. I mean, they got Paris Campbell for him to throw to. It's like cool.
Darren Waller.
That's the only. Honestly, Darren Waller is the only player on that roster right now that I would trust throwing the ball to, and that's kind of sad. We don't know if Saquon's going to be there. Um, I feel like I don't think the Giants are going to have a good year this year. Sadly, I don't have them very high. I'd have them not even as high as Matt has 'em. I guess I agree with Matt on this. He's definitely not my QB5. Sorry, Richie. I don't even think he's in my top 10 if when I do my rankings. So I definitely
You can give us both an L. You're the
I think
judge.
he's
You can
too
do
high
whatever you
on
want.
both of yours. You both have him. I mean, I wouldn't put him above some of these players. You both have him above. So I mean, I'd rather take some of these other guys that are. I think they're more consistent with their points. They're less injury prone because they don't. That's the thing with Daniel Jones is you like him because he has that rushing upside, but kind of that's a lot of what he has. I haven't seen him throw the ball that to wow me yet. I haven't seen any like ESPN top 5 plays of Daniel Jones throwing the ball. We saw that big run.
Throw the ball.
We'll see. We'll see. I don't have him as high. I think you both lose on this one. I think he's not a top 10 this
Wow.
year.
We both got the L. Let's switch positions. Let's go running back. Who you got?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Well, looking at the rankings, I noticed that Joe Mixon I have higher than you. I have him at 11 and you have him at 18. And coming from a high-powered offense like the Bengals, I definitely think, he's surefire for some points. Why are you so down on him?
All right. We all watched last season when Samaje Perine ended up taking over a few games. I know some of those were injury, but when Mixon came back, I don't know if they were easing him back in or if they were just, riding the hot hand, but that's kind of where it goes for me. I'm looking at Mixon as taking a slight step back uh compared to some of the other guys that I have ahead of him. And I know it's a high powered offense, but I do believe they played better when they let Joe Burrow just sling the ball, 35 times a game and limit the rushing attempts. I do think that's going to happen this season. I think they're going to rely solely on the pass, and that could just be a difference that we have as a philosophy for the Bengals. But that's kind of what led to him. He's your RB11, so an RB1. He's in a back end RB2, mid RB2 for me. I would not like him to be my RB1 unless I went basically zero RB or hero RB. But I do see that he could have a decent season. I mean, touchdown upside alone on that offense is pretty good because they're going to be scoring a lot. So that's kind of where I stand with Joe Mixon this season. It could change. He could also be cut. We're waiting on him and Dalvin Cook. Like there's rumblings of both being cut. They could stay the same, and then it's just more, business as usual, or they could both get cut and move to different teams. So that's kind of where I'm putting my bet on Mr. Joe Mixon. So what does the judge say?
Oh, sorry, Rich. I'm gonna have to give give another one to Matt here. As a Joe Mixon believer and then trader, uh, if you look at his stats last year, outside of his monster, what was it like 50 something point game where
Yeah,
he
that was against
scored
me. That
four
hurt.
touchdowns, he
5. It was
scored
5.
where is it? He scored 3 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns all year. Three. That that's not what I want from my running back. At least I'd like one every game, or if not every other week. But to score three on the entire season, it's not going to do it for me in fantasy. To have him higher than uh, past past where you have him, Richie's. I think he's a great player. I think he's on a team that doesn't protect the pocket, and I feel like that's why we're seeing Joe have to throw it fast to his weapons, or and that's why Joe Mixon really isn't that productive personally. Yeah, I don't think I think Matt's right on this one. They're a passing offense. They have T Higgins over there. They got Jamar, and I think that Joe Mixon, although he does catch the ball sometimes, I think he is a little bit lower on the spectrum than some of these other running backs on the board that I'd much rather have over him, that are more consistent.
I'll get one eventually. Don't worry.
I believe.
Hey, we both got an L before, so all right. So bringing up the next guy, Antonio Gibson for me. I am as the RB19, and you have him as RB34. My main thing with this is the hiring of Eric Bieniemy to the Washington Commanders staff, and this is where I think he's going to get an increased workload because they did move on from J.D. McKissick this offseason, opening up all those receptions and targets. And just look at what Jerick McKinnon did the past couple seasons. And that's kind of I feel like that's going to be the role that Antonio Gibson is kind of destined for, plus a little bit of rushing upside too. And if he's used correctly, he could be a great value this year in drafts. And I really do think his baseline with his pass catching is going to be pretty good. This could be a bad offense, with we don't know if Sam Howell is going to do it, and it's going to be interesting to see how it looks. But I do think if it is Sam Howell throwing the rock, he's going to try to lock on him an easy target. So the tight end and running backs. So as far as floor, I think he's got a pretty safe floor, which is why I have him as a RB2.
Okay, so maybe I'm a little low on Gibson as I'm, I'm kind of buying more back into it as I'm listening to more of the hype. I mean, not really the hype, the news coming out of the Washington camp. But still, I mean, I feel like I've heard this before, and it's just more of I kind of think I'm expecting more of the same. Granted, no JD McKissick coming in. Maybe that's why it's not wrong to maybe bump it up a little bit, but it's hard to get excited about the Washington offense right now with kind of the question mark under the quarterback position. So Sam Howell might come out and he might be great. And I understand, dump offs and whatnot, but Brian Robinson's still there, and obviously Rivera loves Robinson, so um, it's going to be tough to. I think it's a not such a easily paved course to being a let's say an RB2, but I think maybe I'm a little too low on him. I could move him up a little bit. Yeah,
All right.
Judge.
I am gonna go with Richie on this one.
Yep.
The fact that you have Gibson over Brian Robinson Jr. is crazy to me. As you said, Sam Howell's there. We don't know if Sam Howell's going to be the guy that we need him to be in Washington offense. If he's not the guy, they're going to be leaning on running the ball more. And who's that guy that's going to get the first touches of running the ball? That's going to be Brian Robinson Jr. It's not going to be Gibson. Like you said, he is more of a pass catching back. And would you rather have the guy that's going to run the ball consistently and getting you points, or would you rather the pass catcher that's getting passes from Sam Howell out there? I'd take Brian Robinson Jr. over Gibson 5 times out of 5. I don't see how you can rank him higher than Gibson. That seems crazy to me. But yeah, I agree with Richie. I think having at least Richie has Brian Robinson Jr. as his RB27, where Matt, you have him even lower than that. You have him as your RB39. So yeah, definitely on Richie's side on this one.
Well, I guess all good things must come to an end. So that's fun. That's fun. All right, bring the next guy. Next case.
Next on the menu, the next guy we're going to talk about here, AJ Dillon. AJ Dillon. I have him at RB33, and you have him at 21. And I don't know why, because I don't really expect much from the Green Bay Packers offense this season. There's been a lot of talk as far as, Jordan Love being the guy. I think it's safe to say he is the guy at this point, which from just the past couple of years, it's anything but exciting. Um, you have the weapons that were there last year, the wide receivers, they need to eat, they need to get theirs. At that point, the main man off to the side there, or the RB1 still in the room, I still think is Aaron Jones. So if Aaron Jones is there, I understand AJ Dillon's going to be coming in for this, like, heavy just down the middle bruiser, but how often are they going to be inside the red zone? And how often is that bruiser going to pay off? So I think it's going to be more of Jordan Love running for his life, them being behind the chains and having to pass it off to Aaron Jones or to one of these receivers, more so than you're going to see AJ Dillon get any sort of work.
So this is where I'm taking a gamble on this offense running through the running game. Like I was expecting last year to get an increased role for the running backs, especially in the passing game. This is that again. So I may be doing myself a disservice by buying in again, but I do believe that Jordan Love is going to be okay. He's not going to be great. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers. So sorry, Packers fans. I don't think that's his ceiling. But this is also a pretty well coached team in by Matt LaFleur, and he likes to use his running backs. And I have Aaron Jones as a pretty good option this year, but also I expect this to be closer to a 50-50 timeshare, and they're going to rely on their running backs to move the chains. And AJ Dillon, he can do that pretty effectively. I know he's kind of disappointed a little bit, but that's kind of where my bet is right now. That just a little bit more usage, more efficient because they're going to need them to be. So this could just be kind of wishful thinking, but I'll stand by it for now until I hear otherwise. So, what does the judge say?
I'm gonna side with Richie on this one. I think that is very wishful thinking. I do think that AJ Dillon is going to get points. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think he should be as high as you have him on your rankings. Just me. So
I mean, you have him in like RB2 territory here, man. Like,
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, some of the guys you have him over, I definitely wouldn't take AJ Dillon over. So just put as, I mean, you have him over Brian Robinson Jr., for example. I would, I take Brian Robinson Jr. over AJ Dillon. So, but
oh boy.
all right, that's fine. Okay, Travis Etienne is the next victim I have. Right now, he's the RB17 for me. You have him all the way up to the RB8. Now, I know both of us are pretty excited about this offense, and I think this is where it stems from. I love the Jaguars offense. I'm going to be investing in them very, very heavily, but I do not believe I will be investing in Travis Etienne. He was drafted very high. He was injured, so last year was basically his rookie season, and he did pretty well. I'm projecting that he's getting an increased workload, but still not over RB17. Some people are, even ADP right now is pretty wild on him. I think he's going like a lot earlier than I have. And mainly my thing stems from his inability to finish the goal line on an offense and them drafting Tank Bigsby. I do believe that showed that they don't want to give him all of the work. He got like 75% of the carries last year. And they've come out and said it since then that they don't want to give him the ball as much as they did because, you know, it's everyone now is RBBC, running back by committees, outside of like a couple guys. So they're trying to make running backs last longer with a longer season. So they're going to take some touches away from some of these guys, especially him coming off that major injury. Um, it's going to be interesting. But currently, right now, I have Miles Sanders, J.K. Dobbins, and Aaron Jones ahead of him in the rankings, and I stand by that.
Well, you're wrong. So let me tell you why.
I'm
Now,
all
just
ears.
looking at just looking at the overall what's going on over there in Jacksonville. They do have the young god that is Trevor Lawrence. And I fully do think that he's about to be taking that step forward into the group that is the very good quarterbacks that we know. That would be, your Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be talked about amongst in that same group. And so, with that big step forward that he's going to be taking, he's going to obviously need his offense to take a step forward with him as well. Travis Etienne is a player that was with him from college, and it came with him to the same team in the NFL. We've seen this with other teams before, and we've seen how um, just the relationship between players that come from the same colleges usually go, and how they can be a good thing. So ETN, I understand, is coming off the injury from 2 years ago, the Liz Frank injury. But now, so I mean, we're about to be a year removed from that, coming into a fresh new season here. I think that with that, the injury is very much behind us, and the concern as far as just the Tank Bigsby and eating away at his work and the running back by committee, I still have him. I still have ETN ranked around 50% of carries throughout the season. I have him actually about 55% of as far as the split. Giving Tank still about like a quarter of the share there. And even so, with that, I'm still ranking him up where I have him. So ETN, I think, is going to be, one more year in experience here. I think touchdown, the touchdown thing where he just couldn't really get into the end zone too often. I think we're going to see that kind of go away a little bit more. And I think overall, ETN is going to have a very good year. So, I mean, anyone that's down on him, take advantage and grab ETN from him.
Mr. Judge, cast your sentence.
This is
Your
a tough
judgment.
one. I do I like Etienne. Don't get me wrong. I do think he's gonna have a good year, but it's just purely based off of rankings of running backs compared to other running backs. I'm gonna go with Matt here. There's a couple guys on this list that I would not take Travis Etienne over. Um, that you have him over. Like I would not take Travis Etienne over Jonathan Taylor. I would not take Travis Etienne over Saquon Barkley. It's just some of these guys. They're just great players, consistent with their points, and I think Etienne is up there. I just don't think he's over some of these other players that you have.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Are you going with Matt?
Yes,
Wow.
I think he's just. I like Etienne. I just think you have him too high.
So
Okay.
so it's a half win for you.
There's one player on this running back list that I want to talk about because you guys have him ranked drastically different, and I guess if I had to pick one, I would agree with Richie more on it. Is Damian Pierce? Richie, you have him as your running back 22. Matt has him as his running back 43. Can you
Wow.
care to explain, sir, how a starting running back of a team that has a rookie quarterback that's probably going to be running a lot is running back number 43?
I think I may have given Devin Singletary a little bit too much work as far as my projections, and that's what cut it down. Just looking at them right now.
Yeah, you have Singletary as your 34.
Yeah, that's weird. It's interesting. And I do believe part of it is the pass catching. I do expect Devin Singletary to catch more passes, which is what he has done. Um, I guess the main thing for me is I value Devin Singletary a little bit higher than some other people do. And I do think he's going to cut into the workload of Dameon Pierce. It's an awesome story. he rose up draft boards real quick last year. He was a buy, definitely, but he's a 4th round pick at the running back position. They're easily replaced. I'm not saying Devin Singletary is going to replace him. I mean, I guess I kind of am in my rankings right now as they are, but it's one of those things where I don't think he's going to finish as high as some other people do. I probably have him way too low, being the 43. He for me, he would be probably an RB3. I'd be okay with. I'm not drafting him as an RB2 because I am a little, bullish on CJ Stroud and the Texans. I do think they have what could be the makings of a decent offense, but not for at least a year. And at that time, just dynasty outlook too. Not sold on Pierce, so this season could be a lot different than last year. Because who was he beating out last year? Rex Burkhead. Like I forget who the other guy was, but no one like great. And despite what you say about Devin Singletary, he's better than the guys he had last year to go up against. So that's kind of where I'm hedging my bet, where I don't think he's going to just get all of this workload that he got last year. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know you had him all the way down there. So
he
you
could beat
prefer
out.
AJ Dillon over Damian Pierce, huh?
Again, we said
Alright.
this early. I probably got to work on
I
this a little bit,
know,
but
I know.
yeah, it's the first run. We'll see how it goes.
I'm not one to talk.
That took a little bit longer than we were originally planning. There's a lot of discussion and words said, judgments to be had. So we're actually going to split this into 2 episodes. So we're going to try to record this later this week and send the second half of this. So that will be wide receivers and tight ends that we have differences on. And it'll probably be more of the same. We'll have more glaring differences, and I'm sure we are going to rank stupid on some people. So it's going to be fun to point those out to each other. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. Not saying that because I was judged upon a little bit less, but hey, it works. Work in progress. We're here, learning, working together. So, anyone have anything to add before we head out of here?
Well, enjoy your summer.
Yeah, good luck on those rookie drafts. Get the
Yes.
guys you want.
Yep. Yeah, we posted ours on our Twitter the other day for ours that was done last Sunday. So it was pretty fun. It was a good time. I had a lot of picks, so it was enjoyable. But we'll see how those picks were. And just so y'all know, we got Richie going on vacation for a couple weeks, heading across the pond. So it'll be Joe and myself holding down the fort in the meantime. So we're hoping to get one more episode of Rich this week, and then he's out until the end of June. So enjoy.
You miss me too much.
We'll try not to. So, all right, that's gonna do it from us. Take it easy, everyone.
Peace out.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at the Heroes FF.